So we've got our hands on the new Galaxy S25 Edge, and at the moment, it doesn't really have direct rivals, not until that rumored iPhone Air arrives. We'd say its closest competitor right now is the iPhone 16 Plus, which lines up pretty well in terms of size and camera count. So let's take a deep dive into the design, display, performance, cameras, and batteries of these phones to really find out if this one-of-a-kind Galaxy is truly worth it over the old-fashioned iPhone. Hey, I'm Olive, your host here at Versus.com. When you see these two phones from the back, they do look pretty similar, but when you turn them to their sides, that's when you really get why the Galaxy S25 Edge is a big, or more like a slim deal. Both the Galaxy and the iPhone sport sleek flat frames with a matte finish. The Galaxy uses titanium, while the iPhone goes with aluminium. Both feature frosted glass backs, with the Galaxy getting Corning Gorilla Victus 2, but the iPhone's glass type isn't specified. For durability, both offer IP68 protection. In terms of weight, the Galaxy is super light at just 163 grams, while the iPhone is 199 grams. Now, while you obviously can't get the hand feel through a video, let me tell you the Galaxy is extremely comfortable and very light in the hand. It's like one of those wild iPhone concepts from 5 years ago, but the Galaxy is a reality and it's available today. So as always, let's check in with the team and see who likes which design best.
The iPhone.
The iPhone.
The Samsung.
The Edge.
The iPhone. What about you?
I think I'm also gonna have to go for the iPhone. Now let's check out these displays. Both phones come with flat 6.7-inch displays. You're looking at LTPO AMOLED on the Galaxy and OLED on the iPhone. The Galaxy supports 120Hz refresh rate, while the iPhone is stuck in the Renaissance with 60Hz. We simulated sunlight at over 100,000 lux and measured how bright the screen typically gets using a full white screen. The Galaxy hit a stellar 1,646 nits, and the iPhone reached 1,088 nits, clearly making the Galaxy the more usable one outside. For security, the Galaxy comes with an ultrasonic fingerprint scanner, while the iPhone, of course, relies on Face ID. For even more info on screen specs, including our measured peak brightness, feel free to pause the video right here. Honestly, the Galaxy screen is superior to the iPhones in every single way. So if you're gonna consume a lot of content, the Galaxy is your only choice here. And while displays are extremely important, audio is too, so let's check that out. Both phones come with stereo speakers, one at the bottom and the other doubling as an earpiece. Give them a listen. We have to say the audio from the Galaxy is quite loud given its super slim form factor, but the iPhone still comes up on top with much richer bass and clearer treble. But now let's check out those cameras. For the main camera, the Galaxy comes with the same setup as the S25 Ultra. That's a 200 megapixel with an f1.7 aperture. The iPhone, on the other hand, sports a 48 megapixel camera with an f1.6 aperture. Typically, the Galaxy captures cooler tones and controls highlights better compared to the iPhone. The iPhone in most photos does have a bit of a green tint, however, it usually offers more sharpness. Indoors though, the iPhone looks more natural. The Galaxy tends to give grays a slight purple tone, plus it also shows a lot of noise in the shadows. So for us, the iPhone looks better here. For ultrawide, the Galaxy packs a 12 megapixel camera with a 13mm equivalent focal distance. Funnily enough, the iPhone has exactly the same camera specs. In outdoor shots, we don't really see any major differences, with both photos looking mostly identical. So choosing the best one here really does come down to your personal preference. Indoors, the iPhone once again has more real-life colors, but it also has quite a bit of noise. The Galaxy has a rather cold white balance, but its noise levels are definitely in check. In portrait mode with the main lens, edge detection in both phones is pretty good with people, but the Galaxy is clearly better with these plants in the foreground. Plus, we prefer the richer colors of the shot. At 2x digital zoom though, the iPhone does better at edge detection, even picking up single hairs. However, its photo is a bit over-sharpened, in comparison to the Galaxies. For video with the main camera, the Galaxy can record at a maximum resolution of 8K 30 FPS, while the iPhone stays at 4K 60 FPS, but as always, we stick to filming at 4K 30 FPS for our comparisons. Here, the iPhone captures a bit more detail in the darker areas, but it also clips some highlights. The Galaxy, on the other hand, looks more natural with a more realistic dynamic range. Indoors, though, the iPhone handles changes in exposure more seamlessly, and it does a great job of capturing detail both in the shadows and outside the window. That said, the Galaxy does preserve more accurate colors here. As for ultra-wide video recording limits, the Galaxy supports up to 4K 60 FPS, while the iPhone is capped at 4K 30 FPS. Again, though, we stick to 4K 30 FPS. With this cam, the iPhone gives you a wider field of view, which is, of course, very welcomed. It also captures a bit more detail, while the colors on both aren't really that far apart. Indoors, once again, the iPhone captures a much better dynamic range, keeping bright highlights and dark shadows in check, while the Galaxy, again, looks just a bit more accurate in colors. For portrait video, both are limited to 4K 30 FPS. Here, once again, the iPhone clips some highlights on my face. However, the edge detection, while still not perfect, is more precise with things like my hanging phone, and it's also more responsive than on the Galaxy when moving around. Up front, both phones come with 12 megapixel cameras with an aperture of f2.2 on the Galaxy and f1.9 on the iPhone. Photos with these cameras are quite similar, we have to say, though the color of my jacket definitely looks more true to life on the Galaxy. In low light, though, the iPhone, just like with its ultra-wide photos, introduces a lot of noise. However, the colors are definitely better than the Galaxy's, whose photos look extremely smudged and oversaturated. For video with this camera, both are limited to 4K 60 FPS, but as before, we stick to 4K 30 FPS. Here you can immediately see the iPhone's video is pretty well balanced, with both dark and bright areas nicely in check. The Galaxy, on the other hand, looks a bit too dark for our taste. So now we're gonna test out the audio on both of these devices, starting off with Samsung here. What do you guys think? How do I sound over here? There's some roadworks going on, some cars. How is it handling that? And then we have the iPhone. Is it any better than Samsung? What do you guys think? As always, let's talk about it. While both are good, the Galaxy filters background noise a tiny bit better, completely muting that hissing in the background. Now, zoom is where both of these phones have a bit of a shortcoming, as both lack a dedicated zoom lens, which in the case of the Galaxy is present on the rest of the S25 lineup. But hey, something needed to be sacrificed for that svelte figure, right? At 2x digital zoom, the iPhone does hold onto more detail, though the white balance on the Galaxy looks a bit more precise. However, at 4x zoom, interestingly, the Galaxy becomes the sharpest one, honestly delivering a pretty usable photo. When you push it to 10x digital zoom, the quality is a bit low on both, but it's actually not as bad as we would expect from phones with just a single main lens. Moving on to low light, with the main camera, the Galaxy just transforms me into Snow White, completely removing all color from my skin. While a bit blurry, the iPhone definitely takes the best shot here. With the ultra-wide camera, photos go in completely opposite directions. The Galaxy is super cold, while the iPhone is extremely warm and oversaturated, though it's kinda closer to reality. In portrait mode, the Galaxy goes full Disney princess, plus the over-sharpening is too aggressive. The iPhone, while it could be a bit sharper, looks far more natural and also has better edge detection. On video with the main lens, the Galaxy captures just a tiny bit more of what's going on in this super dark scene. Needless to say, both videos are very rough. Finally, for video with the ultra-wide in a better illuminated scene, both phones produce videos with a lot of noise because of the high ISO. However, the iPhone does look a bit more natural and has a better dynamic range. Altogether, these phones are pretty much on par when it comes to daytime photos, but indoors and especially low-light scenarios, the iPhone generally takes the upper hand. But now, enough about cameras, let's press launch control and check the performance. The S25 Edge comes with the Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy, which features 2 higher clocked Prime cores. The iPhone, on the other hand, packs Apple's A18 chip. For RAM, the Galaxy gets 12GB, while the iPhone comes with 8. For storage, the Galaxy offers 2 different options, whereas the iPhone gives you 3. But to really see what these phones can do, we're going to throw them into some real-world testing, and we're starting with gaming. We'll run 30-minute sessions with cooldown time in between. First up, we fired up Grid Legends in performance mode, which is capped at 60 FPS. The iPhone was the best one here, hitting 60 FPS and only dropping to 49 FPS, whereas the Galaxy dropped to 30 FPS, while also being the hottest, reaching 50 degrees Celsius. Next, we launched Withering Waves and cranked the graphics all the way up. This time around, the Galaxy was the most stable, starting at 60 FPS and only dropping to 43 FPS. However, it was once again the hottest one, reaching 51 degrees Celsius. Then we fired up Bloons TD6 and flooded the screen with thousands of units to really stress the CPUs. While both started at 60 FPS, the iPhone stayed at 16 FPS once the chaos hit. And for the third time in a row, the Galaxy was the hottest, reaching 52 degrees Celsius. Moving on from gaming, we exported 99 photos in Lightroom. Here, the Galaxy was the first to finish the render in 4 minutes and 14 seconds, almost a minute and a half faster than the iPhone. Next, we rendered a 3-minute 4K 30 FPS video in CapCut. There was almost a photo finish here, as the Galaxy finished just 4 seconds behind the iPhone. For fun, we also opened a massive Microsoft Excel file with over 4 million cells. Weirdly enough, the Galaxy was obliterated here by the iPhone, which opened the file in just 4 tiny seconds. Now let's check out some benchmarks. In Geekbench 6, in the single-core test, the iPhone actually spit out the higher score, with more than 3,000 points. But in multi-core performance, the Galaxy was the one delivering a higher score. It's over 9,000. In 3D Mark's Wildlife Extreme Stress Test, the Galaxy got the highest score in the top loop with almost 6,000 points. However, for the lowest loop score, both were pretty much identical, with a difference of just 1 single point, which means that the Galaxy performs better but also throttles the most. As for Antutu, we're providing these scores just as an example, since we can't really compare these numbers directly due to their different system architectures. For storage types, the Galaxy comes with UFS 4.0, while the iPhone, of course, uses Apple's NVMe. As you can see, the iPhone performs pretty good when it comes to gaming. On the flip side, the Galaxy is the top performer in real-world scenarios and in benchmarks. That said, it did get quite hot during the testing, reaching more than 50 degrees Celsius at times. Samsung did include a copper vapor chamber on the phone, but it's of course significantly slimmed down compared to other S25 models. Moving on to the software side of things, the Galaxy runs One UI 7, which is based on Android 15, while the iPhone is running iOS 18.5. Samsung promises 7 years of OS and security updates, which is pretty amazing. Apple doesn't officially state numbers, but it's also typically around 7 years. One UI 7 is a great evolution over One UI 6 with a fresh design, a new notification/control center panel, and some really smooth animations. Of course, you'll find AI goodies like the Now Brief, which gives you contextual information throughout your day, plus other features in the gallery like generative edits and sketch-to-image to create absolutely nonsense photos. iOS 18.5, which will soon be replaced by the shiny new Windows Vista, iOS 26, feels very familiar to previous iOS versions, but packs some nice personalization features that are very welcomed. On top of that, you also get AI shenanigans like visual intelligence, the new Siri, which gets help from ChatGPT, or the Playground app to create fun images, this last one working completely on device and offline, unlike on the Galaxy. Whether you're team Android or iOS, we think you should give either OS a spin at least once just to try it out and see what you like the best. But now let's move on to our last category. Battery life is definitely something you need to be aware of with the Galaxy S25 Edge. Its battery doesn't use silicon carbon technology, and it's even smaller than the one in the base Galaxy S25, sitting at just 3,900 mAh. You don't hear this often, but the iPhone carries a bigger battery here at 4,674 mAh. To give you an idea of their battery life, we started our performance testing with fully charged batteries. The iPhone still had a little bit of juice left after finishing, while the Galaxy just straight up died mid-testing, and we had to recharge it to continue. Now, for wired charging, the Galaxy supports 25 watts, while Apple just doesn't disclose this info. For For wireless charging though, the Galaxy supports 15 watts, while the iPhone supports 25 watts with MagSafe. In our charging test using a 100-watt charger, the Galaxy was the first one to complete a full charge in just 1 hour and 7 minutes, reaching 19 watts. The iPhone took 1 hour and 42 minutes, but interestingly, it hit a higher 29 watts. As for pricing, the Galaxy S25 Edge will rob you of $1,099. Meanwhile, the iPhone is actually cheaper at $999 for the equivalent 256GB configuration, or $899 for the 128GB version, which is kind of crazy because even though the iPhone has an archaic screen, it's still an okay deal. But to make things even more confusing, you can also get a Galaxy S25 Plus with 256GB and more battery for $999, which honestly renders the S25 Edge redundant. So, while the Galaxy S25 Edge is a really interesting phone, it's kinda just proof of what Samsung is truly capable of making. For us, it feels like a pressed Galaxy S25 Plus minus one camera and at a higher price. This phone can only be targeted at non-power users, mainly due to its battery, someone who's going to use it without a case or with a super slim one, because when you slap a regular case on it, it basically becomes the same thickness as any other phone without a case. But hey, at least it's protected then, right? Personally, we think the iPhone 16 Plus is a better buy, but at a discount, because honestly, only 2 cameras and a 60Hz screen in 2025 is kinda poor. As always, links to these 2 phones can be found in the description below. And before you go back to the future, don't forget to give us a big thumbs up and hit subscribe, as we're always testing new devices to help you make the best choice. We'll see you in our next video, and until then, take care.